All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Channel 6 TV Community Focus. I'm Kenny Fogle, your host tonight. Glad you could join us, and we're going to talk a little bit about veterans issues here today. We've got Frank Thompson here, the commander of Post 42 here in Bardstown, and Chaplain Doug Alexander, who's starting a new program that's going to be helping veterans here in Nelson County. And first of all, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Good to be here.
Okay, well, what's going on?
Well, I think you heard me on Memorial Day. About 5-6 years ago, we had a number of suicides in the community, and some of them affected the families, but some of them affected the whole community.
Yeah.
And working through those situations with the families and things, I started investigating what was going on with veteran suicide. Started getting into all the literature and so forth and so on with a desire to do what we could to facilitate knocking that number way down.
Well, suicide's a very serious issue. I mean, you can get into, there's a lot of issues, obviously, I know you've worked with before, as far as drug abuse, domestic violence, things of that nature. But suicide is one step further, and I'm sure that probably ties into everything else. I don't know if there's any one common denominator to it all.
There isn't. Almost all the suicide situations I've attended as chaplain for Nelson County Sheriff's Office before I retired did have alcohol or drugs involved in them. It seems to be what a lot of times puts them over the edge of good reasoning.
Yeah. Well, the thing about suicide too, and I know something you mentioned sort of struck me a little bit when you were up at the Memorial Day service, is you were talking about how to counsel them. You had to counsel everybody just a little bit differently. The Vietnam veteran a little bit differently than the World War II veteran, and a little differently than the Korean veteran. They all come from different places.
Well, after 5 years of study and working with the troops in foreign locations and getting feedbacks from chaplains, mental health, the military's got some real good resiliency programs going.
Yeah.
But each and every one of them, it's like playing Jenga. You got to pull out each piece to help the level of inability to cope with some of the things in society, and each one's different. But dividing them by war, where they speak the same language, they know what went on. They were there.
Yeah.
And seems to be a common thread that's running through some of the literature and things these days. But I've also pretty much come to the conclusion, although there are a number of steps you can take and a number of treatments and alternative treatments, it's got to almost be vet on vet from the same era.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where a lot of the guys that came back from Vietnam that went into the drilling reserves you were actually using the drill weekend to talk amongst yourself. And it's one of the things the Department of Defense found out. If they were in a drilling reserve unit where it was a peer group, their own group, where nobody they could take care of it and it wouldn't be as bad. See, what a lot of people don't realize about the suicides is a lot of the cases, the veteran has got a trauma that he's living every night. And he's trying drugs, he's trying alcohol to counter that. And somebody said, well, that's it. I said, every night. Let's say you got blowed up in a truck. You survive it. Well, every time you lay your head down, that hits you. And you go through that all over and over again. And we had one of the members of our post who theoretically drank himself to death, trying to combat that on his own.
Yeah, people don't realize, and you spent a number of years in the military, the trauma that you go through, the things you see that the average person doesn't see, the things you feel. I mean, they say, well, you signed up for this, you expect it. Yeah, you don't. I mean, you can't expect some of the things that you absolutely experience.
I was doing a speaking engagement for the International Conference of Police Chaplains not too long ago at a regional training seminar here in Louisville. And I'm talking through the process and some of the reasons that different wars they have a different language. And all I said was, what kind of things are still triggering you? And yeah, there's the blowing up and so forth, but the one vet looked up at me and he triggered. We had to assist him in doing some facilitation work and handling it. And anyhow, it was coming back.
Yeah.
He hit San Francisco and he was a baby killer. And it was just ugly. And here we are, how many years later? 22 suicides a day, and most of them are still Vietnam vet.
Yeah.
Okay, but the good news is the increase in military suicide, because of all the different things that are going on and all the work that's going on, has fallen behind the national average in growth. So we are getting
Making
there.
a little headway, yeah. Well, Frank, I know you talked just a second ago about people that they meet up different places, like go to the drill weekends to talk to each other because they speak the same language. And that a little bit of the same thing what the American Legion does.
Well, theoretically, yeah, that's what we're doing. The program that Doug and I had mentioned and started is we have the Korean Vietnam veterans that meets on the third Tuesday of the month at Bardstown First Christian Church, and the Afghan Iraqi, that group meets on the fourth Tuesday of the month at 7 o'clock. That way they can come in and as a peer group, and we do a lot of it at the post as well. If somebody needs help, we take care of them. But this is a chance. There has no other American Legion post that we know of had started something like this, and this came about Doug and my last visit to Guantanamo Bay. They have a serious problem down there. They just had one last week. A 21-year-old Marine was on the pistol range, shot 4 rounds at a target. The fifth round he put through his head. And that's a 21-year-old who's only going to be there 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's as Doug said, he got to see he got to work with a lot of the chaplains down there. Actually, he started working with the chaplains before we ever left Jacksonville. He was at the airport and they were going in, and he started working with them all the way in. So he had a good week to work with them and all this stuff. And that's what this program came out about.
Well, as a trained chaplain, you obviously use a lot of psychology and stuff that you've studied over the years. And so dealing with the suicide is not like just sitting down and telling somebody to snap out of it or just talk. I mean, there's a whole lot more to it than that.
Well, and I've studied suicide as a whole. I am a pastoral counselor, but mostly I use psychological first aid.
Yeah.
It's not counseling at all. It's getting them stabilized, and there's been a number of times I've been called to a house where somebody is been triggered, and sitting there with them and helping them get themselves feet back on the ground, and then finding the resources, because as you mentioned earlier, everyone's different, and the resources needed are going to come from many different directions. I've got one good friend that's on medicine, does wonderful. Got many that are scared to death of the pain side of the medicine, and we've lost a few that way. But again, it involves everybody. But those of us who are not veterans, okay, we can only help in bits and pieces. The peer can, if I look at you as a peer and said, I just went through eye movement desensitizing whatever it's called, EMDR.
Right.
And it helped me, even though it's an alternative to some folks. The guy might put it into pulling out that shingle block that gets triggered, and so again, it's a mixture of everybody assisting the veterans community, and the veterans community helping the actual people going through it. And I found that just about every vet has some level of it. It's just their coping skills have helped them. And then there's the denial factor. But the biggest thing in getting them into care or getting them to our meetings or anything else is the stigma.
Yeah, well, absolutely. You hear people come back all the time and say, I know they've been through something, but they won't talk about it. They just simply hold it in, and it's something they just roll over and over and over in their head.
They don't want anybody to know because they're afraid somebody out there, their employer, their friends, going to find out about it. And that's why this program is anonymous. We're not going to keep names. We're not going to keep records. If a guy comes up to me and he says, I was there, I said, it's your thing, because I'm not going to remember. Hopefully I won't remember you.
Yeah.
I had a call last week about a veteran, And first thing I asked her, is it serious? She says no, and then we went on to forget about it. So that's one of those things. If you're calling somebody, the first thing you need to know, is it serious? VA says if you're having a psychotic episode, go to their mental health facility at the VA, either Leestown Road or Louisville. If it's an emergency, they will treat you. After that, they'll figure out whether it's an emergency or not. But they're going to treat you. They're going to take on, they're really serious about trying to get this problem under control. And that's why I said this program that Doug and I have started, we're hoping to get it, going very well and make it a shining example to the rest of the country of what the local people can do.
Yeah.
Versus a lot of people say, well, the VA will take care of me. I said, well, the VA is going to take care of you. But they have a lot of people to take care of. And
Well, and one of the first extensions of this when we went to Djibouti was we worked right with our guard folks here. And what my role in it was to extend to them that we have 4,000 chaplains worldwide with the International Conference of Police Chaplains, many of them who are ex-military.
Yeah.
So, there's always issues with mixing military information and so forth with civilian world.
Right.
But so many of our international chaplains have a military background. So when you get back and you don't really have the military folks at your fingertips, even though it's still difficult for them to decide to go to them, and the vet's not there because it's not local, you have other resources in the community that have the training that can at least get you stabilized.
Well, it's wonderful you guys are doing this. Now, again, where is this and when is it?
Okay, the third Tuesday of the month at 7 o'clock we do Korean and Vietnam.
Okay.
The fourth Tuesday at the of the month we do Iraq and Afghanistan and the more modern.
At the First Christian
So-
Church in Bardstown. Okay, now if somebody wants to get a hold of you for more information, how do they go about doing
they can
this?
call my phone number. It's listed as the post contact for Post 42. It's 502-468-7443. They call me. And if I don't answer the phone, leave a message, I'll get back to it. But if I know it's a local call, I generally answer it straight up.
All right, well, and I know you're on Facebook, so if
I'm
anybody's
on
got
Facebook.
internet, you post
Message me on Facebook. That's one of the reasons I keep Facebook, so people can get a hold of me. I had a guy the other day who called me. I was out of town. He says, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, why?" "Well, I haven't seen you on Facebook in 3 or 4 days. I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." But that's veterans looking out for other veterans. This is one of my veteran friends that was up in Triangle Dumfries in Virginia. And if people don't know where Triangle Dumfries is, it's right outside Quantico.
Well, like I said, it's a wonderful program, and it's a shame we need the program because suicide is prevalent. Hopefully, like you said, it's on the decline a bit. Maybe that's because people are now starting to take mental health a little more seriously. Years ago, mental health was a much more of a stigma. Now people realize that mental health is a lot like physical health. You have heart conditions, you have the flu, you have mental conditions, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just something you have to address.
And hopefully we can get everybody looking at it that way.
All right. Well, I appreciate you all being here.
All right, thank
Commander Frank Thompson, Chaplain Doug Alexander here from Post 42 in Bardstown and American Legion Post. And again, give them a call. Look them up on Facebook. They're there. And again, give them a call. And if you need help, obviously it's all anonymous. It's all free.
All anonymous and free.
And it's available. And you got veterans helping veterans. Well, appreciate you guys being here, and again, appreciate what you're doing.
All right, thank you very
All right,
much.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
And stick around, a lot more to come here on Channel 6 TV. We'll be right back.